Embrace HitMatch. Embrace its academic and professional reputation that has trained over 15,000 professionals in 10 years. Embrace HitMatch's numerous professional programs from HND to BTech, BSc, and MBA in the schools of Business and Management Sciences, Engineering and Technology, and the School of Transport and Logistics. Embrace HitMatch professionalism, excellence, and consistency with solid mentorship from the University of Bamenda and the University of Boya. Embrace HitMatch skills, development, expertise, and career orientation via workshops and academic field trips. Be part of the HitMatch family. Visit our Boya campus at Checkpoint Moliko and Douala campus at Carrefour Yoro, Jos, Bonamusale. Contact 683-70-1720. The Higher Institute of Business Management and Technology, the University Institute for Professionals.
Good evening, televiewers. You're welcome to Prime R on My Media Prime, the first for this week. We are going to be running a series of Prime R editions, trying to look at ways of advocating for peace, reconciliation, and love in Cameroon. So this evening we are going to be looking at the growing divide and hate in Cameroon. People see themselves more as belonging to an ethnic group or a region than considering themselves as Cameroonians. What is the cause of that? Where did we fail? And we are also asking whether this is the time that is most important for the nation to engage in schemes that seek to bring true forgiveness and reconciliation across all 10 regions of our country. We are discussing this with the panelists who are seated already in the house. Dr. Nick Ngwanyam is a seasoned educationist. He is a politician and also a social entrepreneur. We're glad to have you, Doctor.
Thank you very much, and good evening, all our listeners. You know, Cameroon is boiling, and so we have to come back here and be looking for ways and means of understanding our problems and seeking for ways and means of having some peace and bringing down the temperature. That's why we are here tonight, and we hope that we'll be up to the task, because we cannot continue to let this hate speech continue.
Okay, we're also in the company of Carlson Ayaba. He has been on this platform for some time, but disappeared. He very busy serving the nation in Yaoundé. We're glad to have you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Will, for inviting me once more to this wonderful program. And special good evening to all our viewers. We need to remember that love surpasses all.
Also with us is Linwe Clovis. They call him Mr. Gentle. We're glad to have you.
Thanks very much, Mr. Leonard. I keep saying we are nation leaders. I keep saying on many occasions that only Cameroonians can solve Cameroon problems. If they put away arrogance and be humble themselves and look each other in the eye, we can solve our problems. Okay. I'm happy again to be here.
We also are in the company of the kangaroo man, Elvis Tayon. He's representing the CRM party. To note that he is the Assistant Communications Secretary for that party, led by Professor Maurice Kamto. Good evening and welcome.
Thanks very much. Greetings to Professor Maurice Kamto, President-elect, and also to all those members of the party who are currently languishing at the various detention centers across the country for no just cause, while embezzlers maneuvers with 180 billion of money envisaged for COVID-19, and yet they go scot-free and are parading the corridors and holding government offices. Good morning to the people, good evening brother, to the people of Gonoko village, and to His Royal Majesty Dr. Fomiki Waters, and a host of other Royal Majesties across the nation. Of course, Baba One is not left out.
Okay. We will start with you, Dr. Nick Ngwanyam. We are talking about a nation that is deeply divided, overwhelmed in hate speech. We see it almost everywhere. How do we understand that many persons would rather want to identify themselves today more with their tribe, with their region, than with the nation?
It's unfortunate. It's a mentality issue, It's psychological, it's sociological, and there is this tribe mentality. I think we've all seen this video that is on social media where someone is trying to describe the three kinds of persons that are there. I think the first group he calls them barbarians, and then the second group he calls them tribesmen, the tribes mentality, and then the third and best group is the citizen mentality. So it takes energy. Let's say, for instance, you heat a pot of water on fire, and it's on fire, and it's at a particular temperature. To maintain that temperature, you need some heat to keep it hot. But if you turn off the gas, then the water comes back to a steady state, or becomes colder. So technically, to have a people, to live in peace and have this citizen mentality, it is whatever goes on in the community to continue to build that, to mold the people. That's why we go to church every day. We talk to each other every day. We continue to mold each other so that we can grow to become citizens. But when we have bad influence, bad governance, and a couple of other difficulties that we've been facing in the nation, then that structure begins to rot down, and then we begin to descend into a place that is very chaotic, where hate speech begins to grow, and that's where we are going. And we are heading towards the Rwanda situation.
Okay, we pray we don't get the Ayaba. Carlson, why do we want to see ourselves more as somebody from this tribe, from this region, and by so doing we keep tearing the nation apart?
Mr. Ali, I think the essence is that most of us don't want to tell ourselves the truth. Okay. Just like my fellow panelist here just stated, he was greeting his president of his party as the president-elect of the country. When we know that procedures, after elections, there were procedures which were conducted to authentify and verify the results of the elections and declared President Paul Biya as winner. So for me to answer your question, all of us as Cameroonians have that individuality to always accept the truth. And when we accept the truth, we will know that we can always consider variation of opinion as a way of living together, as a democratic process. But when we begin to engage in processes which don't respect our Republican values, then we only promote hate speech and xenophobia.
Now, Gentle, do you understand why, despite the efforts made by the government, almost everybody is talking love, peace, and for years we've been talking about all of this, but we have not been able to detach ourselves from what we preach and what we actually are living? Our hands also tied, because it's easy to see the hands of some people are tied. Are our hands tied?
I think on this issue of hatred and division among Cameroonians, I will not only rely on issue of regionalism or tribalism. You've limited all about. We have also having a lot of hatred and division based on party lines. Yes, issue of multi-partism is another issue that we also need to look into. I think I will, like Dr. Nick earlier mentioned, I will not only talk on mentality, I will also talk on the Cameroonians. Some of them are influenced, politically motivated. Sometimes when I listen to Cameroonians, those who we call ourselves intellectuals, but we listen to Cameroonians, what they say, what they discuss, what they on social media. You discover that Cameroonians have a problem not only with mentality, but the also problem Cameroonians face that lead to this hatred, this division among them. Sometimes I link it to some there is poverty, unemployment, idleness. Because if you are really concentrated, focused, doing something, you don't have time to be pointing people and say, "This man, you are from this one you are from this here." So I think Cameroonians, I will start before looking at this issue. We have a problem as a people, and the problem is we are not patriotic. And the reason why Cameroonians are not patriotic that generates the issue of hatred and division is because Cameroonian, and the reason why we are not patriotic is because we don't look Cameroon as a state. We look at individuals. We are serious. We are not looking at Cameroon as a state, as a nation. Individuals in Cameroon have discouraged most Cameroonians from being patriotic, and lack of patriotism make them not to project Cameroon as a nation, but project their region as a nation, project their tribes as a nation. Why am I saying that Cameroonians are not patriotic? It is very clear. We will be talking about truth and reconciliation. There are some personalities, there are some individuals, there are people that make people to have less interest about Cameroon, not to have that patriotism for Cameroon. People look at Cameroon based on individuals, and that's why we are failing. So due to lack of patriotism or love for the nation, it has generated to hatred. people now tend to, based on their region, I'm from this region, you are from this region, I'm from this tribe, you are from this tribe have resources, this region have resources, why people don't have resources, and it generates why we are here today. And I keep saying something, that Cameroon is where it is today. We'll have a lot to discuss, but I will still say something. Cameroon is where it is today because from the onset, many Cameroonians have failed to identify when it was going wrong and learn a lesson somewhere in life. Be careful with a friend who keep coming closer to you, telling you that all is well, meanwhile all is not well. That's not a friend. A friend is somebody, a real friend is somebody who comes closer to you and tell you that, my brother, go and take a bath, you are dirty, your mouth is smelling. That's a real friend. Cameroon is where it is today because when it was not going well, people were telling Cameroon that it's well, all is well, meanwhile it's not going well, and it was bubbling. And today we are seeing the outcome. So, Mr. Lena, I think the issue of tribalism, the issue of regionalism in Cameroon, goes even to multipartism is a problem that I will not take most of the time. I will be coming back to it to look into that.
Okay. Many persons are really having problems with receiving our channels. Okay. Now, far as Tayo, we see Cameroonians wanting things for their regions, irrespective of what happens elsewhere. Why would people only seek to benefit themselves and will not also want to feel for what their brothers and sisters are living up north? Everybody is trying to tear the nation apart for their benefit.
Well, I think that it's for different reasons, which are categorically clean and clear. It's like if I hear what Carlos Ayaba just said, like talking about when Republican values put someone, and we are still talking about president-elect, I understand that he's surely living in the state of oblivion. Because when we are living in a country where the institutions have failed, of course, you have every reason to doubt the institutions when they declare what they declare. Now, when you live in a system where the rule of law does not take precedence in the governance policy, you live in a system where when you have separation of power does not exist, you cannot be talking about counteracting an idea put in place, for example, by the members of the Cameroon Renaissance movement when they say they have a president-elect. Because what systems are we having? When we have a kangaroo system that lives on constant bad governance, constant rigging of elections, and staying in power, taking the Cameroonians hostage for over 40 years, and a young man sitting here will tell you that Republican values. You can imagine from where they talk to, from where they're talking, you can imagine from where they're coming from. But then, that's still the issue. And the same mouths tell you that they're talking about truth. When they proclaim issues, you see it very far from them, because they call Republican values. When those values have already lost credibility in its entirety, you have to understand what I'm talking about that. But that's not the issue anyway. The main issue here is that if we talk about the growing divide and hate, for example, how does it come about? It's for obvious reason. These issues have been carefully worked out for over 60 years by, first, the imperialist policies put in place by the French government. And as this has been going on, their policy of assimilation, then understanding that for them to better rule, divide and rule will be a better system, so that the people have no common front to come together and kick against a bad system that is put in place. These are the things that young Cameroonians sit, and because of bread or honey that they tap from, they blow grammar in the air and tell you Republican values when they are far-fetched from the realities. On the other hand, and furthermore, we realize that for issues of what we have, the divide and rule, the system in place, the policies now boils down to give us a clear example or a clear picture of what is happening. How do you explain that you have what we call policies when it comes to what we call recruitment at the civil service? We talk about regional balance, but it's never respected. How do you explain that when you write a name from a particular division, Ja and Elobo, they tell you that half of the persons come from that area? Does this sound very okay? Therefore, how do you explain that in a ministerial appointment, where you have over 60 ministers, they will tell you that more than 1/3 of those ministers come from a particular area? It means that the policy of regional balance that is embedded in the constitution of the country is not practiced as per se. And that explains why, at this juncture now, everybody is trying to tilt the national blanket towards his own side, because he realized that the game is no longer a fair play for each and every one. If we're talking about a real government, not a kangaroo government supported by some sycophants, as you get from their language as they express, you would have been able to understand that you could just sit and understand that in the case of For example, civil service recruitment, you know that this quota goes to Northwest, this quota goes to this area. And once it is stratified in a well-defined policy, people will no longer be carrying out that kind of system of why should this person be this way and I'm not this way. So the policies themselves have been carefully put on. And since that we have what they call paper tigers and paper politicians, they too have put on the cap. And what is their own cap? Wanting that they must draw things in their own area, not to the general use of the people they claim to represent, but to their own party officials. For example, if you come to Bengui, how do you explain that you have a politician who is on board? Now, when it talks about developmental policy, people forget to understand, as the kangaroo system forgets to insist that once you are a parliamentarian or you are a senator, you could be vying in at the level of a particular party. But once you get to the helm of that office, you become a parliamentarian and a senator for the whole nation. Meaning that if you want to formulate policies, the policies and the triggering effect goes down to the entire constituency where you are and not to particular groups of persons in that locality. But of course, we understand that these things are far-fetched when it comes to the practicality of it on the ground. So at the end of it, those who think that they are not benefiting and others who think that they have been treated unjustly by seeing how some persons who are not qualified enough man particular positions, while those who are qualified, because they cannot dance the bafia dance of the kangaroo system, they are relegated to the background. You can imagine how aching it becomes that you have a boss who has water in the head, coconut head, and then he becomes your boss. And then you who have gone to school, taking all the techniques with experience, he is the one teleguiding you on what to do. How do you express that? The terms might be hard, but the realities are clear that the system has lost alignment. And when they pick up sycophants to defend them, you can begin to understand that the sycophants themselves have also lost alignment. The truth is bitter, as Dr. Nick keeps saying, and that is what is killing us. Because we preach truth by mouth, but by our doings, the truth becomes far-fetched. While we will not sit to hear that a man is a Wona, a man is a Tangana, and he is the Dio, he is a state council in Womb and these other areas, while a man is Far Elvis, who comes from Bengui, and is made the 6th assistant state council in another area, while young boys who don't have the experience and just come out and they are your bosses. These are the things that bring about the hatred. And we think that in a normal government, that's why I said that no matter what the government will blow here, Mr. Leon, if you want to correct these things, first, the government policy has a role to play, because the government has taken everything, politics to everywhere. In church, government has infiltrated with politics. Everywhere, government has put in place politics. So as a result of this, people no longer think that they're supposed to play their main role. How do you explain that we have civil society organizations who are supposed to be apolitical, but on the other hand, they play a major role in propagating issues that tells you that they belong to one party or the other? So everything has been politicized. At the end of it, we are running a wrong battle. But one thing we must understand is that the regime in Yaoundé has expired, and the regime needs to go on leave. Nothing good can come out of Yaoundé. Let's gallivant here on air the way we like. Thank you, Mr. Liu.
Okay, Dr. Nick Ngwanya, we have all lived this slogan of national unity, nationality integration that has been very, very capital to this nation. It's been spoken by almost all the ministers, all the directors. The President of the Republic has spoken so much about it. On fear, we are rather witnessing national disintegration at many levels. Who is not doing their job? Who has failed the nation?
Thank you very much. Probably before I go into the nitty-gritty of answering to this